coming the other day. Got distracted. Aren't we still getting free meals, breakfast and lunch from the USDA?
Yes. And I think it's the end of the school year.
But somebody paid $16.46 for meals in arrear.
That might have been in arrear. Yeah, because it doesn't go back to arrear. So if this was from sometime before.
Must have been 2 years ago because it's been free for a long time. Yeah. Okay.
Lisa, let's go ahead and have you start so that we can. Oh, anyway,
I'm doing the work session.
talking about, she wants to share with you the high ability plan for the middle school that they've been working on. Because she wants to keep working on that.
Oh, you want me to say?
Yeah.
We are going to get started with the public work session.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I was supposed to have Tony with me tonight, and he's out ill. And our Roosevelt drummers were supposed to perform tonight, but Mr. Walt took a fall. So I hope I'm not bad luck, but I'm happy to be here. Kind of keeping this in mind, our vision for high ability is up here on the screen. I'm eager to share with you the work that our Middle School Guiding Coalition has been working on over the past few months. We are looking to update programming and looking at curriculum, so this vision has been at the forefront of all of our decision-making processes. Along with the vision, these 4 core values have been guiding all of our decisions moving forward, and we've kept them at the forefront as we've made these decisions for our students. Our Middle School Guiding Coalition was made up of 2 district leaders, 1 school administrator, 2 middle school counselors, 6 teachers, and 2 parents. So we had a diverse group of stakeholders that had a lot of input and value to add to our conversations. Our timeline for our work began this summer when I sought volunteers to be on this Guiding Coalition for middle school programming. I did not have any problem getting administrators, school counselors, teachers, or parents to volunteer for those positions. And then in September, we met to begin our initial conversations. We looked at Indiana code, what's required by law that we do. We looked at national programming standards and best practices across the country. In October, then, we made a list of all those service delivery models. So we had about 12 different models, and we did the pros and cons of each of those. We identified the barriers, we identified what would need to be put into place, and what the costs would be associated with each service model. In November, we made our initial recommendation that we have a high ability section at 1 middle school, and that we offer honors programs at all 3 middle schools. So basically a tiered response. 80% of our high ability kids would be in honors courses at all 3 middle schools, and about 20% would be in a high ability section at one of the middle schools. In December, then, we made further recommendations on how we would place students and what should be included in that high ability curriculum. In January, we furthered our proposal for qualifying data and placement and outlined the questions we wanted to ask to our parent and teacher focus groups. And then in February, we held our parent and focus groups meetings where we asked them questions, sought their feedback, and then we had the opportunity to gain feedback from their questions. Along with this timeline, concurrently, I've been meeting with the honors teachers at all 3 middle schools to clearly identify and outline the differences between a general education class and an honors class so that parents and teachers and students both understand what is involved in an honors class, what the level of rigor is, what the difference in expectations are, and what's going to be recommended as a performance outcome. So we believe that high ability and talent development have specific and unique needs that require a specific and unique approach to their learning. Last year, we surveyed our stakeholders, and about 90% were in support of some overall structural changes to our high ability program. And so we began that work with our elementary schools. In our strategic plan, laid out elementary schools in year 1, middle school in year 2, and then next year would be high school, as well as creativity and leadership. With our elementary programming at Roosevelt, we've had great success. We have a 100% recommitment rate to come back to Roosevelt, with the exception of one that is moving out of district. Parents have spoken highly of the program. Parents who have dropped in have spoken highly of the program. And on Monday night, we held a prospective family night, and I did not have to say more than about 5 words. The student panel and the parent panel said everything that needed to be said. We know that about 80% of our identified high ability kids can be served in an honors classroom where they'd be receiving instruction through enrichment only. But our questions and our conversation in our guiding coalition are about those top 20%. How would we be serving them? Just as we look at those at the opposite end of the bell curve, we have intense classrooms, we have specialized programming and specialized curriculum for those students, and the same holds true for those at the top of the bell curve. We need a specialized curriculum and specialized programming for them. So the benefits, obviously, to moving to this structure, we have no middle school licensed high ability teachers, and so that would be the priority, would be to license and train those teachers who are working directly with that top 20% of students. They would also be working with honors students as well, so that training would benefit all students in that building. We also know that these students at that top tier have very specific social emotional needs. Those social emotional needs would be embedded into their curriculum, would be embedded into specific lessons targeted for the needs of anxiety, perfectionism, and other things that we've known in the middle school to be an issue. Additionally, we would have an opportunity for these students to be involved in more competitions, academic competitions. Our high ability section would have access to future problem solvers, National History Day, as well as additional English language arts and math competitions. So when we looked at which middle school would make the most sense to house these top 20%, West Side kind of bubbled up to the top. We met with all building administrators. All 3 building administrators said we'd welcome the program with open arms. We met with operations based on the limited number of students we'd be selecting to go to West Side. All 3 buildings were willing to accommodate that in space. So we then looked at where would the least amount of kids be displaced, and the current trend as well as the trend coming forward would be West Side. So of our incoming 7th graders, of the 25 students, approximately 18 of them are already scheduled to be at West Side. Also at West Side, you have an administrator who has trained in high ability, knows a lot about high ability, has taught high ability. I was one of her former pupils of high ability, and she was doing project-based learning 20-some years ago. Also at West Side, last year I put a call out to identify who would be interested in high ability training and licensure. West Side had an overwhelmingly positive response. We had 4 teachers immediately last year, before even knowing the program could be a possibility at West Side, who wanted to be trained in high ability to better service their kids. So the selection process for middle school, we're looking at approximately 25 students at each grade level in 7th grade and 8th grade. We started with our general intellect high ability students. Those are identified in both math and English language arts. And then we looked at the top 20% in both English and math. So took the 20% at the top of math, 20% at the top of English arts, and where those aligned, we had our top 20%. It's important to note that once these selection letters go out, parents have the right to opt out of this program or opt in. And if we don't have enough to move forward with the 25, we will open it up to an application for the next 20% of our identified general intellect students. So the time frame for this is for next year, so we're modifying it a little bit to make sure we're getting this met before the end of April. But we would start that process of referrals early next year in the fall semester. In December, then we would have new identifications. So those letters would be sent home so parents would know what their options were. In February, that selection committee would meet again to discuss student placements. And then those letters would be mailed out at the beginning of March with an acceptance and due back by the end of April. So a few other updates to the middle school programming the Guiding Coalition was working on. As I mentioned, we're doing course description guides for the 4 honors classes to really spell out and identify and make it transparent for teachers, parents, students, and staff what the differences are. Biology would only be offered at the enriched and accelerated section at Westside. The other middle schools would all offer honors science at 8th grade. The changes to honors science, we heard from our biology teachers and our honors science teachers that the students who are struggling most frequently with science are those that have difficulty with reading and writing. And so we wanted to make sure that we were setting all students up for success in those classes. And so we would be identifying kids for honor science that are identified general intellect, that are identified math, and that they also have a Lexile of 1,000. That's a reading level of 1,000 using NWEA. Because when we looked at the textbooks that they're using for biology for honor science, that was approximately the reading level that the students would be involved in. Additionally, we looked at our identified ELA, and then those with a high math score that was in the 7th STAY9, so the 77th percentile or higher, which is an above average rating. And lastly, what we're most excited about probably is our Rising Scholars that will be exploring an exploratory program for next year. We have 21 incoming 7th graders who have been identified. Our teachers will be collecting a qualitative rating on those students using a HOPE rating scale, which is designed specifically to identify our underserved populations. Our Rising Scholars then will have an opportunity to participate in an optional summer programming and then be placed in honors courses with targeted follow-up along the way. So I've always been told I talk fast, and so I hope that was fast, and so that came as a strength tonight. So what questions can I answer or take back to our Guiding Coalition that will have a final meeting in April?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to drop kids right away.
Send us your presentation.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay.
Lisa, how many high ability teachers will you need?
So we'll need approximately 8 that will already at Westside who've volunteered to get that training and licensure. So in year 1, we'll do the first 3 or 4, and then year 2, we'd start the next 3 or 4 for their training.
Okay, thank you.
And how long does that take?
So it's a 4 course with an exam at the end, so they can complete it in a year. Most, because they're teaching during fall and spring semester, we'll do 1 in the fall, 1 in the spring, and then finish up in the summer. No, because we currently, at Westside, those teachers are already teaching honors classes and honors sections, so they'll just have a replacement in that, but that'll be something we work with Mrs. Stutzman on. Mm-hmm.
So these are just one section that will come 5 students?
Yes, that would be our top 20%. Yes, busing would be provided. I will send the presentation, and if there's follow-up questions, feel free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to make an amendment? Yeah. We're going to take a 5-minute break before the board meeting. Babette is virtual and she got kicked out of the meeting. So we want to make sure she's able to join before we start the board meeting. So just give us about 5 minutes.
supposed to say?
I think the problem is I don't have any internet or something. Because this is all I keep getting for the outbox. So, but like I said, I've already reviewed everything. It's not.
So while we're waiting, the protocol slips to speak are in the corner here, so you can get a slip and fill it out while we're waiting.
What's that?
Dora's gonna take them.
Just set them there for now.
Not that I wasn't doing the whole thing, but, you know, you can go and get some context.
Any responses that you have, we'll need to talk to you a little more. This is a difficult venue here to have several licenses and have a sure. So I appreciate your assistance.
Okay.
Vaguely. Talk directly with them. At 10 microphones that are wide open. So, really help.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I don't, do you really think you need me to like talk any louder?
Yeah, we couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear you. Your questions.
Oh, okay, John, I know well. What'd you do?
I know, but she was turning over here.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hear yourself familiar.
Okay, okay. You're welcome, John. Thank you, thank you.
When are we gonna have the motion made and stuff before the invitation to speak protocol?
Right.
After the call to order and the pledge.
And the promise?
You'll be after.
Okay.
But the promise would be after
Oh,
the agenda. Maybe they have, my guess would be is that it's been submitted, but it's waiting approval because it's truly not due until here.
Okay.
And then they would get their notification after this. But I think they're letting you know that it's been submitted, but they'd still have time to pull it if we didn't.
Is it bad on yet?
No.
Are we gonna keep waiting or?
We'll give it a minute so she can. Jake is working on it.
Actually, no. I mean,
I know, I was thinking the same thing. I thought, you know, okay, do a little soft shoe when I came up here. We have performers on the board, you know.
Something. This is a book you have to read.
That's my book, yes. Yeah, yours is a lot smaller than mine. Hey, you got a name off, you gotta love that. You know, I used to box. I used to box.
maybe she should go.
Way back when.
Huh? Yeah, me too.
Certainly here if she gets in. Roll call votes.
He said he's trying one more thing.
Did they get her on? Do you want to
He's
put her on?
trying one more thing. He said, hold on.
I've got a man. One of them.
Individual conversations.
Handling the press now also?
No.
You need to give a raise for that.
What are we gonna do? What are
You're
we gonna
becoming
do?
a real jack of all trades.
Yeah. Dorlin, you look like an angel. You look like an angel. There's like a glow over you. You look like an angel.
Oh, so we, okay.
I know, right? She keeps me in mind.
She's not joining. She can't get back on.
Do you want me to put her on the cell phone?
Huh? She can't. If she doesn't have reception, she won't be able to do it.
Well,
So we're
Tell her
gonna,
if she'd leave the pool area, she'd be okay.
possibly.
I am going to call the board meeting to order. If you guys want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I will entertain a motion from the board to amend tonight's agenda.
So moved.
What is the motion,
I
Doug?
make a motion to remove from the agenda under new business the Hawthorne repurposing and also the district mapping and redistricting maps and boundaries.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Is there any discussion from the board? Okay. Rocky, do you want to do
All
the,
in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Babette is not on the call. She couldn't join.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
not on, so.
All opposed? All right, motion passes.
The Elkhart Promise. Every student is known by name, challenged and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community will graduate career college ready and life ready.
Thank you, Rocky. So everybody will have an opportunity, whoever wants to speak has an opportunity to speak at the end of the board meeting. The forms are in the corner there. Fill out the form, give it to Dora. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. What we're asking tonight, if you are speaking about the incident that happened with the student at Northside, we ask that this is a sensitive topic and you make your comments in a sensitive nature. We ask that you not say any students' names to protect the privacy of the student. So that is our request tonight for the invitation to speak protocol. And we also have Todd Kelly here. He is the bully prevention coordinator. If you have any specific incidences that you want to speak to somebody from the district, he is here and available, and we ask that you not make those comments during your section, that you speak to him privately if you want to discuss a specific situation.
Mr. Kelly, can you raise your hand or stand up? Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you.
All right, we were supposed to have Roosevelt drummers for a moment of pride. They were not able to make it, but Doug has so graciously volunteered to do a moment of pride, so I'll give him the floor.
I'm pinch hitting tonight. The last 2 weekends have been very exciting with the Junior Air Force ROTC program, which has about 200 students in it. And the prior weekend, we went off to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and there was a drill competition, and they placed third. And they were, they're always striving for more, but the prior year they didn't place at all, so they viewed that as having broken the ice, and they were, pleased with, their results. The next day we went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which was really cool. That's been on my bucket list, so I only got 9 left now. Last weekend, my wife and I and Kelly and her husband went to the Freshman Academy, the cafeteria there, and we had the Air Force Winter Ball, military ball, and to see 200 kids out there plus dates, dressed to the nines, was impeccable. I mean, it was a sight to behold, and I would highly recommend that anybody. We had students bringing their grandmothers as dates, their mothers as dates, their nieces as dates. It was special. So anyhow, I just want to give a shout out to the ROTC group, Major Dorman and Sergeant Master Rutledge. They are doing a phenomenal job with those kids, and we need to keep it up. We need to encourage them. Thank you.
And plus bring them back for a moment of pride also for them. And then look on the Elkhart pages as we send pictures and different things that were there for that evening. It was, they even taught the students to waltz, and they waltzed. And when you heard the seniors speak about how there was a possibility that their high school careers could have been completely different if they wouldn't have joined the ROTC, and to watch these children, just these young men and women, completely just embrace one another and support one another. Maybe perhaps they might have been overlooked in other areas, but what Sergeant Major and Major have done to increase the self-esteem and worth in these students is unbelievable. So we'll be posting some of the pictures and hoping for them to come back for a moment of pride, because this is a group of children that make a difference.
Yes.
It was amazing. I did not waltz.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have the consent items. Is there a motion to,
So moved. Second.
is there any discussion?
Yes, so it's always my privilege to read when we receive gift acceptance. So we received from the Bowling family $10,000 for the ETI building. The Natalie Bickle received gently used clothing and distribution for our students. That was delivered to our social workers from John and Kelly Rogers. The L&W Engineering donated 16 reels of 3D filament, which has a value of $6,300 to our automated engineering technology class. Then we had a donation of $750 from More Ride for our Elk Logics Robotics Extracurricular Club and Team. We received $646 and a penny, and that was to Pam Melcher. It was anonymous, and that helps to offset negative balances. And that was it. So once again, another great recipients we are of our community.
Is there any other discussion? Well, I think we lost Babette again. So we're not going to do a roll call vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Old business. Doug Thorne, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you. This evening, we have 2 items of old business to discuss with you. The first is proposed revisions to board policy 5340.01, which is the student concussion and cardiac arrest policy. This policy has been further modified to clarify some issues related to notification to parents after a student has exhibited symptoms of cardiac arrest, and make it clear that regardless of the age of a student, we would be notifying the parents of a incident where they had exhibited such symptoms. We're also working with the athletic department and our trainers to develop an online training program for all of our coaches regarding the appropriate use of AEDs. One of the other questions that was asked by board members during the last meeting related to what's the process that we go through to check the AEDs to make sure they're operative at all times. And our district health coordinator makes regular checks of the AEDs that exist throughout our buildings and are also available for athletic events. So this evening, we're seeking approval of that policy as it's been revised.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Second item is a new board policy, which we initially presented to you 2 weeks ago. That would be the family care leave policy, which we have enumerated as 3432.01 ACS. This proposed policy has been revised to, in addition to the 30 calendar days of straight leave that would be available for employees as an unpaid leave, that we could also allow employees to have 20 work days available for intermittent leave. And the rationale for the difference is that obviously a 30 calendar day period would encompass 20 work days. So we wanted to make those things equivalent between the two possible family care leave provisions. And we're seeking your approval of this policy this evening as well.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening. Makes me nervous standing this close to the pit. As I've taken a couple spills. Okay, first item is something we do every year. This is setting the transfer tuition rate. It impacts students that come to us from across the state line, as well as foster care placements. The business office is recommending setting the 22-23 transfer tuition rate at $6,900. That, Madam President, I would ask for a
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
thank you. Turning to the financial report this evening, business office reports cash balance at the end of February 2022 of $40,540,393.09. A couple items of note as you look at the education fund, which is supported by the state basic tuition. There's 4 times a year when that adjusts. You can see that the February revenue amount is down a little bit. That's from the December special ed count. What we will see starting next month is the February shrink in our enrollment, and that will be paid out over the following 4 months, and so the state squares up by the end of June, which is the end of their fiscal cycle. So that's something we'll certainly watch. Even with that, a revenue increase, as you know, our funding was increased from the state, and it's tracking nicely with our expenses. So the last thing I would note is at the back of the financial report for this evening are the checks that are over 2 years old, the state code, and it's mentioned on the one page for your reference. We void those. So they are the 2019 checks that had yet to clear. It's very small dollars, but that's in your packet. That concludes my comments on the financial report. Moving on to my final item, the insurance update. As you can see, February this year versus February last year, we are significantly under. So we're seeing a much better start to the year. I went back and looked at 2020 and 2019, which were good years. 2019 was pre-COVID, as you know, and we're 300,000 plus under the two-month total in that year. So we're off to a good start. Concludes my comments on the insurance report. Are there any questions I can answer?
Any thoughts on the insurance report, why we are about 35% below?
Piece of that is, and then this includes both the UMR runout and then the claims through Anthem. Anthem has a deeper discount, and so we believe that is contributing towards that positive experience.
That was one of the factors in consideration for moving.
Yes.
It's nice to see that's showing their signs that the
Positive
decision was,
results.
yes, absolutely.
And, I think I've mentioned in the past, we start tracking claim expense when it hits 50,000 for a particular individual. And we haven't had any so far in the first 2 months. That's very unusual. So, yeah, I shouldn't have said that out loud. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dora, do you have the slips for me? Are you keeping it? Oh. Okay. So we'll hear from the audience now. When I call your name, you can come up to the microphone. You'll have 3 minutes. I believe IT will be putting a timer up on the screen. So first up is Shelby. Oh yeah, when you come up, make sure you say your name, your address, and your relationship to the district. So Shelby, you're up first.
I'm Shelby. I'm here on the behalf of my students who attend an elementary school. They are bullied day in and day out. I just want to see a movement. I want to see change. I want parents to get answers because we deserve that. Our kids deserve that. They deserve a better future. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It hit home for me, and we need to make a change now before it's another family, another child. I haven't seen much change. I've been I speak with the school daily. I make sure I'm in the classroom even though I'm not physically there, to advocate for my kids, and not just my kids, but other kids. We need to be the voice for these kids, because without us, what are they going to do? What are we going to do to promise that it's not going to be another family? It's not going to be another innocent child. Bullying has zero tolerance. Every day I pick my kids up from school, I see the bullying prevention sign on the school doors. We need to make sure that that is happening. I don't want my kids to feel like they can't say something in school because they're worried about being in trouble or the narc or the snitch. No more. My kids need to feel like they can say something when they're at school instead of holding that in and bringing it home to me, and then I have to fight for them day in and day out, and then I don't get any answers. I want accountability for the bullies in all schools, elementary, middle school, high school. It starts at a very low grade, and if we don't do something now, it's just going to escalate and it's never going to stop. I just want to see a change.
Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you.
And remember, you guys, if you have a specific situation, you need to remember that if you have a specific situation that's happening with your child, please see Todd Kelly before you leave. Kayla?
Years ago, when I was going to school, I was
Can you say your name and your address and your...
Kayla Fernat. I have 2 kids in the Elkhart Community School System.
Okay, thank you.
20 years ago, when I was going to school, I was known as Shrek, Big Bird, Jolly Green Giant, and Afro Puff, but my name is Kayla. It didn't matter what color shirt I had on for the day, I just gained a new nickname. I've had ramen noodles and cans of pop thrown at me because of my weight, and I've even had my Afro Puffs on fire. While all of that sounds pretty horrific for a child to go through, it doesn't sound nowhere near as horrific as what's going on these days. Our community lost a child, and we are all grieving her. Just last year, my son walked those very same halls and had his pants pulled down and recorded. His bullies gained 2 extra days of summer since it was the last week of school. He ended up in classes with these same bullies this year, and I had to pull him and put him at the Elkhart Academy just for him to find a new bully, and this time a girl. Because he's special needs, he keeps befriending for her every time. She threw apples at him, knocked his lunches on the floor. She was suspended for 2 weeks. For 2 days, for throwing a chair at my son, and Friday she beat him up. When is enough enough? When does zero tolerance actually mean zero tolerance? I demand changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, if you guys have specific details, please see Todd Kelly. We really want to respect the privacy of the students. So if there's something specific you need to discuss about your child, please see Todd Kelly and have a private conversation, and don't give those details over the mic. Jason? Jason? Is somebody able to adjust the mic for him so we can hear?
He can.
Oh, good job.
He can. And that would be Jason. Uh-huh.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm a student at Hawthorne Elementary School. I have a question. The last day of school is May 22nd. Usually it's June 3rd. I was wondering, why are you making the last day of school earlier than it normally is?
We don't answer questions, Jason, I'm sorry. But one of us can talk to you after the meeting and we can tell you.
Okay.
Jason. So don't run away. Dr. Shepard, could you raise your hand, please? Could you go over, if you go over and see Dr. Shepard, he'll answer your question.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
I think this name says Amber. I'm not sure. It's a little hard to read the writing. Sorry if I mispronounced the name.
So my name is Ander. I had a question, but I'm gonna ask Mr. Shepard.
Okay. Andrew, you can go right over and Dr. Shepard will answer your question. Okay, Laverne. Is it? Oh, it might be Lauren. I'm sorry. The writing is hard to read.
All right, so I know you guys have been saying if we've had specific incidents about bullying in our schools. To parents, you've said about their children that we need to talk to somebody. I have reported bullying on multiple occasions in my school, and the most that has happened is the student was suspended for 3 days. That is not reasonable for the actions that he has taken. He has said multiple racial slurs, very homophobic things, and the incident that got him suspended was him calling my friend a terrorist, and that is unacceptable. That should not be something that is allowed to happen at this school and in the school district. I am very, very disappointed and infuriated that this is able to go on. It needs to end. The bullying needs to stop, and it needs to be fixed before we lose another student. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Corrigan?
Hi, my name is Corrigan Hammond. I'm a student at Northside Middle School. I was really close friends with the student we lost recently. And I, refuse to let this fade away like any other incident that happens like this. And I know that a lot of excuses have been made about it. But it has been reported multiple times, the bullying, that is. And the school has done little to nothing about it. And that's unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. And I refuse to let it happen to another student, to another kid again. If it takes hundreds of students, hundreds of townspeople to acknowledge it, then why can't you? That's all.
Thank you. Nicole?
My name is Nicole Ball.
Can you pull the mic up a little bit so we make sure we hear you? Thank you.
My name is Nicole Ball. You don't need my address. I had 2 kids in the Elkhart schools. You do not know me, but I'm Rio's mother. That incident you spoke about was my daughter's death. I will not say names. We are not here to bully the bullies. That is being handled the correct way. When my Rio was first attacked, my first
instinct was to go into that office and knock stuff off the counter. But I knew I wouldn't be listened to. I would not be taken seriously. Instead, I went through what I thought were the correct things. Dr. T, can you please look at me while I speak? We trusted that school. And what we were told, we trusted it. I fully understand that not all of you are bad guys, because obviously that's not true. But there are some wolves in sheep clothing and flat out monsters that walk the halls with our babies. How can you continue to ignore that? How can you not kick these bullies, teachers and students, out of these schools that we pay for? Your school system failed her. We did not. I know, and we expect people to blame us. That's okay. Let them. We know better. Rio knew that she was loved by people who accepted her for who she is. I have 2 questions. Did you do enough? What are you going to change? Because what you are doing is not working. You do not know me, but you are going to get to know me very well. I will say her name. We will say her name. And we will never stop saying her name. For Rio.
If it is okay with everybody, I think it would be appropriate to just have a moment of silence. Thank you. Michelle?
Good evening, board. My name is Michelle Corich. I'm a resident of the city of Elkhart. My daughter was a classmate of Rio. I'm here because I find it entertaining that I was here 2.5 years ago and you still haven't fixed a problem. The Elkhart promise isn't a promise, it's a failure. My husband and I sat here listening to you at the beginning, and Lori at the beginning, talking about the social and emotional support that is given to the kids of Elkhart. You failed. This weekend, this community came together because a 12-year-old got bullied under your watch. What are you doing for those kids? You know, I came here last time, and the 7 Ps still apply to you people. Prior proper planning prevents piss-poor performance. I'd like to see you do some proper planning. You, Dr. Tallheimer, told me that things were going to get better. The kids that are in the high ability, the top 20%, who have social and emotional needs, you all were going to meet them. That didn't happen, and today, you still haven't fixed the problem. And children are dying. We moved our child. And I'm so thankful every day that we have the ability to do that, because we didn't trust you people, any of you, and no one in this community should trust any of you people. And if any
any of you really believe that you're doing your job, you should turn around and look in the mirror. And you should resign. But I also want to let you know, the school board, last year, your little plan, it failed again. This year, those of you that
Michelle,
are up for
your time
re-election-
is up. Thank you so much.
My husband's here. He'll give me his 3 minutes.
Each person only gets 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. But I do want to congratulate you for one thing. You made a top 10 list in the state of Indiana. You are number 8 in transfers out of this district.
Thank you for your comments,
And
Michelle.
you know what? I hope every parent that's able to moves their child too, so that you can lose more money, so the district can look as bad as you have developed it.
Dana?
My name is Dana Dolph. I have 2 students in the Elkhart Community School System, unfortunately. You will not be having my address. I find it absolutely asinine that you would ask any parent, student, or family member that is supporting this community and this school system to write or speak their address out to anyone, let alone a room full of strange people. Please recognize that that is ridiculousness. Please, they asked those 2 little boys to give their address to strangers. This is how much they care. I'm not done. I have 2:20 left. Since you will not be answering questions, I will go ahead and just make statements. There has been no accountability whatsoever for who is responsible from the school, the individual school, to report the bullying incidents to Todd Kelly. And I really find it absolutely ridiculous that you are not answering questions. Who is going to answer our questions? Well, can you answer that one? Who is going to answer our questions if you people are not going to? Where do I go to help find help for my child and for any other child? Who answers my questions? You tell me that. No? Okay. Now,
Ma'am, I would just say that if it is, depending on what it's about, members of our administrative team
yeah,
are.
you heard that. Please give me my time. Thank you. Okay. So, who is responsible for assuring the students inside the school that they are safe? You? All of you. All of you. And you know what? It's our job too. And you know what? We are tired of letting you do our job. We are ready to stand up and be tired, sick and tired of all of you. All of you. The disrespect that one of you wouldn't even look that mother in her eyes while she spoke is completely and totally gonna make me lose it. Now, I will say her name. Her name is Rio Marie Allred. She was a 12-year-old girl, and she was my daughter too. I was her mother as well. You failed her. You're failing my children every single day, and you're failing thousands of other children every single day. I'm just gonna keep saying Rio until my time is up. Rio Marie Allred, Rio Marie Allred, Rio Marie Allred! Thank you for listening.
Dr. Thalheimer, do you have anything you want to say?
You should just not. Just don't embarrass yourself at this point. Do you hear us now? Do you hear us now? Answer that question, or just don't. Do you hear us now?
I do hear you.
All right, listen.
Folks, you're asking what we're going to do, and I'm going to address that.
I'm going to ask everybody to be respectful because you had your time to speak. So let's be respectful and allow.
That mother in her eyes when she spoke. That's respectful. You should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed of yourself. Your family should be ashamed of you. All of you.
People have been asking, what is it that we're going to do differently? And immediately last week, the leadership team and I met and had a conversation about the things that we needed to investigate and look at and do differently. So immediately, we had conversations about the processes that we use when we investigate bullying, and giving the vulnerable state that so many of our children are in, we want to layer into that an additional risk assessment that we do on students when they're reported for bullying. It's not something that's required. It's not something that we typically do, but we're discussing how might we ask some additional questions to make sure that a student is assessed and we can get them the help they need if they're suffering in silence and haven't indicated that up to that point. Well, we are going to meet with principals tomorrow and have a conversation about what is happening in the process of the investigations, what things are happening in those investigations that are successful and that are providing information that's necessary. What do we need to do differently in there? Where are potential buildings having success on that and how they're handling bullying? So maybe newer principals or other buildings can learn from those. So we're engaging in that process of reviewing all of our protocols and processes involved in how the investigations are done. So one side of it is looking.
So we're not going to take any more questions at this time. If you guys have questions, we'll all be around after and you can ask your questions individually.
The third thing is that we are going to discuss on how we look at and spell out very clearly expectations and consequences regarding this. So while that may be for some instances where it may seem like nothing was done, or that a more severe punishment may have been expected in an instance, we're going to talk about that with our principals and talk about what that is. We had a discussion with that with the board previously about what those lines are. Where should those behaviors land students? And in this current time, what does that look like and what is typically happening in those instances? But we also have to take into account progressive discipline. So if this is the first instance, well, that's what we're going to be looking at. The other thing that we're doing is we're looking at our crisis plan and what we're doing in our emergency plans regarding crisis and communication. And so that we get the information where it needs to go as soon as it is and communicate to parents about how that's handled. So those are all things that we're doing in that instance. If at the building level, you are not feeling like you are getting the satisfaction that you need, the answers that you need, the response that you need, in any of those instances, you can report that again to Mr. Kelly or Dr. Sarita Stevens. Could you show yourself? Sarita oversees student services, which oversees this area of bullying, oversees Todd. So Sarita would be a point of contact or contact me. And we will be able to follow up with that and hear your concerns, know what's not happening that you're thinking should have happened, and we can look into the instances that you're referencing. So that's the other important piece. And the other piece is going back to the very first speaker who talked in terms of students not wanting to be snitches. One of the important things that we need is, as we're investigating any of these instances, is that students do tell us what they know and report that. So when we go to do follow-up investigations and we're talking with other students or we're talking to witnesses for things, if people are reluctant to talk, that complicates our ability to do that. So our message will continue to be for people to say something. Many people at the walkout today were talking about see something, say something. That's absolutely imperative for what we're talking about here for us to be able to do that. So if people report and we follow our processes and our investigational protocols, then we should arrive at a place where we have consequences for what happens with the bully. If that isn't handled properly, or if we don't get what we need from witnesses or other individuals, that complicates our ability to do that well. And if in any of those instances that isn't, then that needs to be communicated up to us at the district level so that we can follow up on that for you. And I'm very sorry for your daughter.
Is there anything from the board? No. I just want to make one final comment regarding the Hawthorne repurposing being taken off the agenda. We are needing to do some further consideration before we make a decision. So that's why those two agenda items were removed from the agenda. So as we decide how we're moving forward, we will communicate with you, but we needed more time. Meeting adjourned.